here's Brody Brazil.
So we're now more than 24 hours removed from the 49ers' first game and subsequent win coming off their bye week. And by the way, can you believe this is now the first time all season that San Francisco has put together back-to-back wins, right? They beat the Cowboys at Levi's on Sunday Night Football, then they took a week off, and now back at it in Tampa, they beat the Bucs 23-20 on the road. But my goodness, that was one of the ugliest victories you will ever see. It was almost like the 49ers were trying to give the game away again, whether it was special teams or the 49ers defense, their run defense, or how about all the penalties they took on that final Bucs drive of the game. And then there's Jake Moody, who missed 3 of his 6 field goal attempts. This was Moody's first game back since the ankle injury a handful of weeks ago. And Moody started out just fine. He hit from 28, then he missed from 49 yards wide left, he hit from 33, and then he missed 2 in a row. He was wide left from 50 yards and wide right from 44 yards. Ultimately, when the clock was winding down and there was 3 seconds left, he hit the 44-yarder, but he was also just inside the right upright. So even that was an interesting situation and experiment. In the end, if you only saw the final play, you'd think Jake Moody was the hero. But if you watch the game progress, you obviously knew that had he made 1 or 2 or 3 of the kicks that he missed, this game would have been in the bag a lot earlier, and it would have been a lot less interesting than it needed to be. So we can talk about that final kick, which was great, and that's the fun part of sports, but what I actually want to go back to was his final miss of the day. From 44 yards out, the 49ers were driving. They couldn't get in the end zone, so they settled for a field goal. They were about to convert on 3 points. Now, at the onset of this play, you knew that Moody had just missed twice before. Even that was uncharacteristic. So when he misses from 44 yards out wide right and the special teams unit comes off the field, that's Deebo Samuel right there. Now, I do not want to make this necessarily about Deebo. I like Deebo. I want to talk more about the situation because we do see this happen from time to time in sports where somebody on the field of play in a game screws up. In this case, Moody and maybe the long snapper Taybor Pepper there, but that's Pepper kind of getting his hand or Deebo's hand under his face mask. This was not a good situation, but a situation where somebody screws up, there's a physical or a verbal altercation because of it, frustrations boil over, and it's not pretty. And that's exactly what happened here. And that's what I want to talk about again, more over the situation than actually the individuals at play. But that's not a good look for Deebo right there. He's got his hand under Tabor's face mask, and then he kind of swipes and hits everybody. Moody on the side of the face. Moody was actually holding Pepper back from Deebo. And at this point, nobody knew how the game would result. Ultimately, the 49ers win. So I guess all is well that ends well. And Kyle Shanahan says, hey, not a big deal. This is what players do. We're all hot in the moment. We'll figure this thing out. It's not a problem. But I'm here to say that in any level of sports, this is not great. Dare I say not acceptable, but especially at the professional level. You understand that maybe a younger person, a college athlete or an amateur athlete, may not be as physically mature and may not understand that the players next to them are not the best in the world and were not hand-selected for these opportunities. But in the NFL, this is the best of the best, and nobody's trying to do what Jake Moody did and miss a couple field goals. How do you think he feels in that moment? And for Deebo to kind of let his frustrations boil over, it's unfortunate. Again, I don't want to make this about him necessarily, but you can't have this in any sports, but especially at the professional level. Pepper told reporters after the game this: Deebo was telling Moody to lock in. We know what our job is. We got us. And Deebo said later that he got, quote, out of character a little bit. He was, quote, frustrated in the heat of battle. But he also added that he didn't say anything that was necessarily out of line. Deebo also said that he was going to talk to Moody separately, square this all away. And yeah, of course, this is not going to be a lingering thing or deal. And I would imagine that by the plane flight home, if not shortly thereafter, all of this was done and taken care of. I'm just saying, from a fact that everybody saw this, kids see this, young, impressionable people see this, and I know, I get it, the heat of the moment. I was feeling the same way Deebo was too. But I think you cross that line when you go up to somebody or you start to complicate the situation and almost make it selfish. Again, if you think this was on purpose, or if you think that Moody and Pepper didn't care, or if there was something they said first, of course, then you've got a situation to deal with. I also want to go back to what Deebo said. If it was simply lock in and that got the temperature boiling back and forth, I also feel like maybe there's an appropriate time and place to say things and also to not say things. And the cameras are all over you. And again, you kind of had to know that if you had this altercation like this on the field, everybody's going to see it. And let me just add this too. Had the 49ers ultimately lost the game, this kind of becomes the headline. This becomes the image. This becomes the storyline that we all focus on. Now, great that it didn't turn out that way. And this is kind of something that gets lost in the shuffle. And I won't talk about this after this video is done, but I didn't like this. I didn't necessarily think this was necessary. And I hope young people learn from it. And I get it. We can all claim that we're trying to get the best out of our teammates. And like Deebo, again, was saying lock in, maybe trying to pump up Moody. But you also, again, have to realize the timing in the situation here. Read the room a little bit. Moody, by the way, said an apology isn't even necessary from Deebo. And again, this is before the two, I imagine, already had their talk. Moody said, quote, "It's an emotional game and stuff like that happens all the time. We just move past it. We won, so that's all that matters. Heat of the moment, it happens. I do have to make some of those kicks at the end of the day, so that's all I'm focused on." And again, Kyle Shanahan said he's, quote, "not too worried about any of this stuff." And I'm not either. I don't want to make a big deal. I just want to point this out. In sports, at any level, when somebody screws up, it is not the time to ridicule them, or you can even not support them. Just leave them be. We've seen that in baseball a lot. Pitcher gives up a home run. They come back in the dugout. Leave them be. Batter strikes out, bases loaded. Big situation, 2 outs. Leave them be. I get it. You feel that way too. There's just nothing good that's going to come out of approaching a teammate and putting your hands on them. I mean, I get it. It's football. It's physical. But your hand on the neck, under the face mask, there just wasn't a good reason for that. And so I'll end it right there. We won't elaborate too more, but did not like to see that from Deebo and the 49ers. But they win. They move on. And this season continues to be a little bit more interesting than it actually needs to be. Thumbs up. You made it here to the end. Hit that subscribe button down below. I'll see you back here next time.